Welcome back to the Kerbal Space Program. Today we'll be flying the latest iteration of our high-flying rocket. On it we have some gravioli detectors, and we have also placed a nose cone on here to gather atmospheric data. We have done this somewhat like a Maverick and replaced our safety net of having the docking port on here, so if we run out of fuel now we are screwed. But our last flight gave us 30 extra units. Flight before that, which did not go well, still left us with 10 units. So I think we're at a point where we can go ahead and do that, gather a little extra science. Apparently I have double clicked and we are absolutely loaded with gravioli detectors. I had meant to put a ring of 4 and then 3 on the back, and apparently I've done 2 rings of 4 and then 2 additional ones on the back. So that's going to give us 10 chances to measure the elusive gravioli particle. That said, our mission today has 15 experiments planned. We want to get our atmospheric reading at the launch pad and a gravioli sensor reading at the launch pad. We're looking for 4 gravioli readings in space low near Kerbin, in space high above Kerbin, in space high above the moon, in space low above the moon. We want to get our usual EVA above our landing zone. We want to get a crew report at the landing zone, a GOO report at the landing zone, our Science Junior material bay at the landing zone, thermometer reading at the landing zone, gravioli at the landing zone, seismic detection at the landing zone, and EVA at the landing zone, grab a sample from the landing zone, and then on our return trip, wherever we land, we'll grab a gravioli sensor reading, and as long as we don't land in the grasslands, we can grab a seismic reading as well, which would push us up to 16. Only 15 currently planned. That said, let's go ahead and get this flight underway. We'll double check our resources here. Everything looks good. We're throttled up, so we will start by grabbing our gravioli. I can't believe I put these on twice. We'll grab our gravioli reading here. 6 science, not a bad way to start off the mission. Atmosphere analysis, 6 science. The temperature and pressure reading suggest today is as good a time for flying as any, which is good news for us, I suppose. So let's go ahead and with those 2 out of the way, I'll mark those off and let's go. And I could be mistaken, but I believe that is going to be solid fuel boosters jettisoned, gave us a slight roll. We'll correct that, get ready to roll over or lean over at 12 kilometers. There we go. I believe that is the East Crater, which is a place we have landed, which is pretty cool to be able to look up and see that. Much cooler, of course, than looking up and seeing the Death Star pointed at your planet. That would be awful. But, you know, that's how that goes. Jebediah, sense of wonderment. Looking over here, out at the mountains, poking above the atmosphere. Jebediah, of course, no stranger to these flights. We were talking to him earlier about how it is that he copes with the loneliness and the continued absence from his family. And what he says is that he plays a lot of solitaire, which is not the card game that we all think of, but of course when you are in solitude and you just stare out at nothingness, unblinking for hours on end. Jebediah, a champion of that game. Let's go ahead and check how our flight's going here. When we get to 100 kilometers, we're going to pitch over to flying level with the horizon to widen out this arc. Of course, our last flight, we had some extra fuel left in our secondary booster rockets here, and we were forced to ditch them before they were out of fuel so that they would degrade in the orbit. That said, we're going to try to take advantage of them this time around, burn them a little bit longer to widen out this arc, maybe get our apoapsis a little bit higher so that it's going to be less fuel intensive for our main rocket. Granted, 180 is a lot higher than I was planning there, but that's alright. Not that we are running short on landing zones, but the easily identifiable landing zones are coming to a close there on the moon. So if we do end up in a position to land on the poles or something, we are going to need as much fuel as possible to get off the planet or off the moon. I mean, we don't have to go 90 degrees, and obviously if you're at a pole, going 90 degrees is a long orbit and would put you in an interesting position to get back to Kerbin, but so long as you hit your escape velocity, it really shouldn't be a big problem. But things like that do use up more fuel than using the natural spinning of the moon to get you into your orbit. So all the fuel that we can possibly have, ideally we want to use just a handful of units of fuel from our lander, which we've been honestly really good with, but every chance we can to stretch that out we should always take advantage of. We'll go ahead, fast forward here to our apoapsis. Again, very high. Very high. And before I forget and get caught up in things, we might as well grab our second gravioli reading here. I guess we'll do the bottom ring. Second one. No, you know what? I'll grab onto the ladder first. We'll do it that way. Over the grasslands. I didn't think gravioli scans were biome specific. Huh. I mean, I know they are when you're landed. I don't believe that they work in the atmosphere. But biome specific in space low, that'll make getting some of them interesting and difficult. When I say interesting, I mean difficult. Things like the Badlands are always a pain in the butt. I mean, in space low is not going to be a huge deal. It's the same as grabbing your EVA report from low. But still, not something I was expecting, kind of taking me off guard. That will be a incredibly boring series of flights, by the way, when I go ahead and get a craft up here with enough. Actually, this craft probably has enough fuel. I just feel bad for the two people who watch this. And that's two people who will ever watch it, not, two people who consistently watch it. I feel bad for them doing really, really boring flights of getting into an orbit, grabbing all of the biomes that's in the orbit, altering the orbit, grabbing the biomes that passes over, yada, yada, yada. Although, good for teaching you the mechanics of orbits, not really fun to sit down and watch. Not that this is particularly fun to sit down and watch, let's be honest. Well, actually, you know what? I have my mistake of adding in all of these gravioli detectors. I might as well grab some of those now, right? I mean, I'm here. Turn that off so we're not. Oh, and we'll pop those open while we're thinking of it. Coming up now, 14 seconds. Get prograde. Start burning. I'm hoping for like 30 kilometers with these engines before I'll ditch them to fall back into the planet. Hopefully that'll use up most of their fuel. Granted, it doesn't look like it. 30. They still have some left, so we're actually going to get greedy and push this to 40. It's going to be a lot of speed that they're going to have coming around to pass through a thinner atmosphere. They'll probably make it around a couple of times before we lose them, but that's all right. We're going to go ahead. We're going to jettison these, and then in 20 seconds when we get to the apoapsis, we will get this out to at least above 70. Conserve as much fuel as possible. And we'll go to 80. I've used 11 units of fuel. Okay, and now with the moon there, that actually works out pretty good because it looks like our maneuver is going to be pretty close to the periapsis, which means we'll be able to take advantage of this extra height that we got here, which will hopefully result in less fuel. It normally takes us about 800, I think, to get to an intersection point with the moon. 777. 800, so really no difference. That said, didn't look like we had a good intersecting point. It's going to be 1,000,000. It's going to be 1.8 million. 1.9 million. What if we angle this in? And down. $900, that's particularly... maybe I'm starting this too early. Maybe I was too hopeful with the periapsis. Moon's here, we're here, so the moon will probably be about here, which means we will see it when we're... I love this feature on the planet, I really do. So hopefully that'll be a good omen of when to start this. There we go. We had an intersection there. That's an interesting one. No, less. If we move it this way, is that better or worse? So there we go. We save about... no, I didn't like that. I don't like that at all. Bring it back this way. Nope. Bring it back this way. What if we angle ourselves down? That actually looks like it puts us on the pole, or on the back side. And we save 1 unit of fuel, or half a meter per second versus my estimates here. So that'll be good. We should hopefully have a couple of sites that we can choose from. Since we're practically on the opposite side of the planet here, we'll point ourselves mostly retrograde and then get underway. 15 minutes in. It takes about a minute for this craft to accelerate the 800 meters per second. I think so anyhow. Normally I would write that kind of information down if I was using the same launch vehicle over and over again. But that would also tie in with a lot of the test flights that I do that I'm just not doing for this series. This is my first time playing through the career mode, really, other than just like a glimpse at the tech tree. But I've been playing Sandbox enough that I have a pretty good understanding of each of the parts, and I consider myself to have a very good understanding of the parts that I use all the time. So I'm not going to worry about that too much. Let's go ahead and speed through these 15 minutes. Now a word about MechJeb. I just see. It actually ties in very well with what I was about to say. Some people consider MechJeb to be cheating. Some people consider that it's not. Personally, if you're not using MechJeb to land on a planet to then go out and say, yes, I've landed on such and such planet, then I don't really consider it cheating at all. It gives a lot of very useful information, especially when doing things like rendezvous. You can see your orbital inclinations and your latitudes and things of both vessels, which, frankly, if you were running a responsible space program, you would be able to see that and know that. That's very helpful. You can also see thrust to weight ratios, which is very helpful. Things like that. And my favorite thing, and something that I am very bad at, is that you can actually have it auto-warp to specific nodes, so that if, for instance, just then I wanted to execute this maneuver, and I figured it would take me about a minute to do it, I can set MechJeb to warp ahead until a minute before I reach that destination. And what's very cool about that is that you don't miss your nodes. You can still activate the node manually if you'd like. I believe MechJeb has a mode now that'll run through the node for you, but you don't have to do anything. It doesn't have to do anything for you, but it just your most efficient use of warping, and you don't have to worry about accidentally warping through a planet and crashing because you're not paying attention, or because it's just warping faster than you think it is, as it builds up to 1,000 here. And that's just very useful, and for me it can really help maximize your enjoyment of the game. Before I forget to run my Gravioli scan here, where are we? Boop. Biomes come into play high over objects as well. That's something that I probably should have done. I mean, the planet is rotated below me for 3.5 hours. I could have grabbed some more scans, but again, I'm trying to be, believe it or not, I do try to cut down the time I spend on these. Anyhow, but yeah, so MechJeb, auto warp, huge props for me. Maximize the amount of time that you're playing the game instead of controlling time dilation. Although you could argue that time dilation is a mini game that you must get good at in order to maximize your playtime. Alright, so what we're looking at right now appears to be my moon cartography here. This area is the northern basin, somewhere in here. These are Midlands. We've already landed on the Midlands. This ridge, I don't think this ridge is anything. I don't think the ridge is anything. I think this side of the ridge is known as the Highlands. I believe this area here is the polar crater. Judging from my little map, I'm going to say that that is the polar crater. This, I believe, is just called the poles. Not entirely sure where it begins or ends, but I would guess that it's this area here. Other potential landing zones. Obviously, this would be a nice landing zone, this being the southwest crater. Yeah, the southwest crater. But I think we might... So we're rotating this way, which means that and however long this is, an hour. How far do I think this will rotate in an hour? So it'll probably be about here. If I can get this landing zone set up to here, I might be able to land in that basin, which honestly I'm more thrilled about than trying to land in the poles, especially when the pole, oh come on, especially when the poles are almost definitely dark at this particular time. Now I know I got those landing lights and it's not a huge deal, but it's still a pain in the butt that I don't want to deal with if I don't have to. So if we go this way, boop. What did I say? I want to be in here, so probably if I aim to land on this, I should land pretty well where I'm looking for. Oops, that was a lot. Didn't take much to get that much. That looks halfway decent. I don't know if this counts or if this is Midlands or if this is the Basin, but I think this area here all constitutes as the Northern Basin. So that's what we're going to aim for. We're going to say if I set it up like that with the rotation of the planet, it should put me firmly in there. So that's going to be my strategy. Alright, so let's get into position. While we're getting into position, we'll go ahead and grab our Gravioli scan high above the moon. I did those two, I did those two. Let's go ahead and grab this guy. No, we'll save the back for when we're actually there. High in space, high over the Midlands. Boop. Fourteen, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. About a minute. This 48 meters per second. I don't want to go full power, so that'll probably take us I don't know, 20 seconds. 20 seconds sounds good to you? Yeah, that looks like a vote of confidence from Jeb. We're actually going to cut it a little less. We're going to aim for here if we can. Boop-a-doo. Okay. Let's go ahead and grab that. Very careful on this because we are going to speed up rapidly, and I really don't want to crash into the surface if I don't. Okay, let's. Not even if I don't have to. I do not want to crash into the surface. Let's just throw that out there. I believe we're still. Oh yeah, it's still definitely high above. Is there a second area that we can grab? Nope, still the Midlands. We fall in. Jeb, such a trooper. Spent so much time flying over the moon. It's practically his office these days. Again, still over the Midlands. we're actually going to go ahead and rotate our craft to retrograde now instead of when it becomes a catastrophe. Oh, no, I was going the right way. Let's go ahead. Might be able to get a new scan now. Nope. Still over the Midlands. When we get to about the 40-kilometer mark, we'll start bleeding off this speed. Probably be around 900 meters per second at that point. Oh, it's going to be us switching into close to the moon. Oh, thought that was us switching circle of influence, sphere of influence. High over the northern basin. I'll take it. That's a new reading. We still have landed at the basin and landed at home to go. Just above the northern basin now. This one I believe was high above. Yeah, okay. We're going to go ahead. We're going to do our EVA real quick because I know I'm above the northern basin. Great. We're going to get back in. Ooh, we're going slower than I anticipated. I anticipated about 900. Okay, so I still have the bottom. Then when we land it on Kerbin, and then I get one for the way home, maybe I can get something instead of just over the water. Let's go ahead and start our deceleration. Let's go ahead and put our landing gear down. Let's double check our resources. Lights won't be necessary. Let's go ahead and put away our panels though. Almost forgot about that. Above. One canister of fuel remaining. Let's get the camera centered around the front of the ship so it makes sense to me. Okay, it's 22 kilometers. We are going to fall till around 15. Fire the engines at 12. Again, most of the time, in my experience, the moon is around 2 kilometers surface level. Area we're coming into looks pretty flat. So long as I don't land in that. Looking pretty good. We've switched over to surface now. Now would be a great time to deploy the parachutes. Ha 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 ha. Okay. 7 kilometers. For all intents and purposes, a third of a fuel tank left, which was able to eat away 70 or so meters per second. 7 kilometers up, still falling. Jebediah looks ready. No turning back now. I guess we could do an abort, but that would be rough. 31 real-time minutes in, 6.5 hours, 6 hours, 38 minutes of simulation time. 4 kilometers. Let's go ahead. Off again. Keep us going slow. That brought us back down to basically 0. $3,500 meters left. One thing I don't see is my shadow. Not that I need to see my shadow, but it certainly gives a good reference point. Oh, there we are. There's my shadow. I'm gonna rotate myself so I can keep my shadow and my controls making sense. Okay, that's the end of that rocket. Go ahead and jettison it. $260, which would be about 1,200 where the surface is going to be. All of that debris burned off. Meters per second, 4 meters per second. Stay. Stay. Boom. We've landed. Yes. I'm very excited about that. Anytime I can land on the moon instead of crash on the moon, it's a good day. It's a good day. So let's go ahead and get our solar panels out. Alright, we're going to just go through the checklist here so we don't miss anything. We've got first, and I did do my EVA. Yes, I did. Oh God, tell me I did my EVA so I don't have to try to do one on my way out. EVA report, great. Okay, so that said, let's go ahead and do our crew report from the landing zone, from the northern basin. Done. Let's go ahead and get our goo reports. We're going to do both even though they are diminishing results, but we have them, we might as well use them. school reports. We've got our science junior next. Okay. We've got our thermometer reading. We're going to go ahead and do 2 of them here. Okay, we've got our gravioli detection. Dupe 1.61, about an eighth of what it is on Kerbin. I thought we had logged that data. Well, I'm not going to panic over it. So that gives us 2 opportunities on the way back to get 2 different biomes. Or maybe we can grab one while flying over the moon, because we will have that little downtime. Anyhow, moving on, our seismic data. We'll grab 2 from the moon, toggle display. A minor quake on the surface, great. Let's go ahead and grab it on the other side. Okay. Again, diminishing results, but at least we have them. Nose cone doesn't work here. Let's go ahead and extend our ladder. Something we don't usually have to do, but this new lander is at least being moderately successful. Or the new legs, I should say. Jebediah, jumping off the ladder, landing on his back just the way he was trained. The training at the Kerbal Space Center is suspect at best. Let's go ahead. We're going to take our surface sample. Okay, we're going to go ahead. We're going to grab our EVA report. Looks good. We're going to plant our flag from the Northern Basin. Oh. Darn. I know what I want to put, but I can't think of what it's called. So I'm going to go ahead and cheat real quick here and look it up. That's what it was. Power sauce bars, of course, with all the energy of apples. It includes 6 types of apples. Alright, so we've got our... Did I do my EVA report? I did. Okay, review report, surface sample. I'm almost positive I got my surface sample. That was a nice pirouette and head landing by our good friend here. He visually inspects his craft, makes sure everything is in fact working. He's a little disappointed by having to climb a ladder to get back in. Normally he can just kind of waltz in, but he does enjoy sitting upright, so he's got that going for him. That said, everything appears to be in order. To go 90 degrees now, we've got our 90-degree heading there. Our resources look good. We used 16 units of fuel, which is pretty much what we used last time. We're at kind of a higher elevation, so that could be problematic, but it shouldn't be too bad. That said, let's get ready to get out of here. And we will, just in case, not that I think that if we crash at this point we would be able to save ourselves, but having energy up here is certainly better than having no energy if we go to launch a rescue mission. So we will blast off and leave our moon behind. Everything with that looked good. Pull our landing gear up. This craft is just absolutely bristling with stuff. No space wasted. Okay, so we're a little high up, but we should still be able to get the 90-degree thing going, no problem. We'll throttle back a bit. On our sensors here. Still above the northern basin, so we'll try to get something else. Already able to climb to 14 kilometers. Make sure our engine didn't just flame out, that would be bad. Trying to find a happy medium. This is something I wish I would write down, is what apoapsis I went with in order to get out of here last time. I remember it was pretty low, I think it was around 20. Just 19 units of fuel. I do vaguely remember that when I ran out of fuel is when I cut the engines. And then used what was left in the second engine in order to solidify my orbit. That part does stand pretty firmly in my mind. Eight units, I think, left in this section. 7.5. Of course, getting that number from up here. Okay. I believe last time it took us about 300 meters per second to get into our orbit. Within 160. That seems great, honestly. I mean, I'll take it. 1 minute and 28 seconds. We will, of course, go ahead. Gravity from space just above the North Basin. From the North Basin. High over, just over. That looks... seconds until that burn. Of utmost importance, or we die. So yeah, it looks like I utilized all of those. So these two will be utilized when on my return trip, I guess. We were aiming to return with 15 experiments. Looks like we will have more than that, which is awesome, really. Oops, a little high, that's okay. Kind of a weird angle here. Makes me a little concerned with getting home. Not terribly concerned, but a little. Normally it takes about 180 units, 180 meters per second to escape. Yep, 199. If I do that on this side, that is way less than I need. If I do it coming around this way, and I get 197, $4 million, $9 million. 9 million, but I launch from the moon over here, which means the likelihood of me being recaptured is pretty low. So that will be the plan. 27 minutes from now, as we come around the moon, we will launch 195, easily within my grasp. And that's 22 hours, 12 hours, which means that I'll have to execute that burn somewhere around here, and we will execute the burn. No, we'll execute the burn. I liked that terrifying re-entry to the moon. Again, the 30 kilometers seemed like the absolute best approach there. Low G's, good landing. Looks pretty good. That'll be the plan, and let's execute on that now. 47 minutes. Let's see if I can't get us home in under 12. Just because I know getting it from above the moon is going to be worth more. Let's see if I can't get one more scan here. The Highlands, great. Then we'll get as we touch down, and that'll be just one less thing that I'm going to forget about. Let's go ahead and get into position here. Not that missing would be catastrophic, because we are in a stable orbit, but I really don't want to miss. One can't help but wonder if the fuel situation would be better if we just forewent the monopropellant altogether. So that we wouldn't have to rely on monopropellant to get us home, because the fuel tolerances wouldn't be so tight. But frankly, I go with what works, and I like having the monopropellant. It hasn't come up to help us yet, really. But if you need to nudge your spacecraft during your descent a little bit, monopropellant can be very useful for that. Especially with the way the program's running now. I am, of course, hesitant to do that, because I know that if my craft rolls over, I can still get home, whereas I'm not convinced I'd be able to get home if my craft rolled. If I tried to nudge the craft, move the craft off of a slope, still fell over, would I have enough fuel to get home, knowing that I didn't have the RCS fuel for this maneuver? The chances of me using 90 units, of course, very slim for any sort of maneuver I'm trying to get around on the moon. But I'm not convinced enough that I could survive for me to risk that. Jebediah looking down at his instruments. I'm hoping that's his instruments. That's coming up with that kind of a face, realizing he gets to go home. Praying that his month of service will almost be up. I believe we're at 23 days now in the Kerbal Space Program. Not too bad considering. 23 days, we've landed on the moon. I believe this is our 5th landing on the moon. We've landed on Minmus once. We've been around the world. Should be 270. Turn off the RCS in 23 hours, so we're going to have to edit that 4 hours. Brings us out to 60. .34 is good enough for me. Get into position. Leave the moon behind. Good night, moon. Good night, Jebediah, flying over the moon. Three hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, 35 minutes. That was a little terrifying for a second. I went through a few transitions there. 6 minutes. 5 minutes. 4 minutes. Okay, we can go ahead. Oh, you know what? I probably didn't have to wait as long as I did. It's more effective the closer I am to my apoapsis, but it's alright. We'll fire up the engines. Coming up to the 35 mark that we had in the last mission. Left over for fuel, it's going to be close. Whether or not we beat the numbers. 36, which but it makes this the most fuel efficient mission we have done. Get ready to downgrade this quickly so we don't smash into the planet because we're accelerating too quickly. Anywhere but the grasslands would be a magnificent landing. Looks like we could possibly hit the desert. Nah, it looks like it's going to be a splashdown. We could have, of course, if we had known which way the planet was going to be rotated from way back here, a little bit of a nudge upwards, and we would have landed either in the mountains or in the desert, but we weren't too picky about landing sites because anywhere but grasslands was fine with us. Let's go ahead, take a look at our ship here. Get pointed retrograde. We are technically in the atmosphere. Only a 35% transmission. I think we're all in agreement that I should get rid of this experiment and grab it from wherever it is we land, because I can get the launch pad at any time, and the launch pad would take 2 seconds. So that's probably going to be what we're going to go with, but we'll hold on to it now because Lord knows what the future will bring. Nice stock, glad we had it. Oh, let's get those panels in before they are ripped off. Again, we try to save as much of the craft as we can. G-meter in a very, very safe area. I still can't believe that. The re-entry 2 missions ago. How he lived through that, the world may never know. But it's helped us identify a nice safe corridor. 30 really seems to be ideal. Slows us down a good amount. Certainly keeps us on the terrestrial body we're heading for. Ooh. We might... Well, if we hit grasslands, I'll be sad. But we might hit highlands or mountains. That would be pretty exciting. Yeah, it certainly slows us down enough that it's going to keep us from getting skipped off out into nothingness, and the G's are very, very acceptable. Nope, looks like we're not hitting those mountains. And I really don't want to burn my fuel now, if I don't have to. That is closing. We're going to land in the grasslands again, and I'm going to be sad. Maybe we'll hit the shores, but I don't think so. Now we're definitely not going to hit the shores, and we're also definitely not going to hit the mountains. Half of our fuel used. It's all of our fuel used. This could constitute as highlands. What the? I didn't realize that we were coming so close to home. That's very funny to me. That's very funny to me. I don't know why I didn't realize it as this continent. I should have, just from the deserts, but my mind wasn't putting those two together. A prime example of, well, he went to the moon. Oh yeah? Well, where is he now? Bus fare away. At least it's the highlands and not the grasslands. Not a super useful bit of information, but again, at least it's not the grasslands. So from the highlands, I think we've gotten everything except for gravioli, seismic, and nose cone, so we can actually at least finish off the highlands with the data we're about to get. So that's good, right? I could just cross that thing off. Doop-a-doo. An hour and 2 minutes again. Sorry about that. I do try to keep these under an hour. But here we are. I guess I spent too much time on the lunar surface. We have touched down safely. We're going to grab our seismic data. Okay, we're going to grab our gravioli. Let's go ahead and get our nose cone. We're going to run it anyway. Okay. And that should be everything we have to run. And this should be a very scientifically valuable mission. Let's go ahead and recover that. $868 science. Fantastic. 25 experiments recovered. We were looking for 15. Crew report from the North Basin, EVA from above the Northern Basin, surface sample from the North Basin, EVA report on the North Basin, EVA report while flying over Kerbin's Highlands didn't give us anything. Temperature scan from the Northern Basin, material study from the Northern Basin, mystery goo study from the Northern Basin, secondary mystery goo observation, gravity scan from the launch pad, gravity scan from high over the Midlands, gravity scan from the Northern Basin, gravity scan while in space high over the water, gravity scan in space just above the grasslands, gravity scan while in space high over the moon's northern basin, gravity scan from space just above the northern basin, gravity scan from space just above the water, seismic scan from the highlands, seismic scan from the northern basin, seismic scan from the northern basin worth next to nothing, 7, still more than our base experiments here on Kerbin. Gravity scan from the Kerbin Highlands, gravity scan from space just above the Moon Highlands. Data value of 1 still gave us 60. Temperature scan from the Northern Basin. Nobody cares about a secondary temperature scan, apparently. Atmosphere analysis from the Highlands and recovery of a vessel from the surface of the Moon now gives us 0 science. But 868 is fantastic. That is an amazing accomplishment. I'm very happy with that. Gives us over 1,000 science, which means we can knock off 3 of our previous tier of things, or we could actually knock off both of these. Or no, we're just short, huh? We're 42 short of knocking off both of those. But that's alright, because I don't really want either of those anyhow right now. But yeah, fantastic, wonderful. Wunderbar went better than expected. We did an upright landing, so applause all around. Nice job. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.